Part 138. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1371. Come with me. Shuahua smiled slightly, but wanted to lead the two of them towards the back mountain. The gatekeeper disciple immediately became anxious. This was their forbidden area. How could they allow three strangers to enter at their request? But he was also afraid of the strength of Yu Shui's incarnation, so he didn't dare to make any attempt to stop him. He could only watch the three people walking into the depths of the back mountain. It wasn't until he disappeared that the foundation building disciple gritted his teeth, went to a hall at the door, and told an elder of Danja exactly what happened. Go straight to the back mountain? This is not possible. The elder Jadan stood up, but then he sighed again. You can't see their strength, which means they are at least in the nascent soul stage. Elder, what should we do? If it disturbs the sect leader's retreat, will it? The Five Elements sect is finally struggling to regain its reputation in the spiritual world. If a few outsiders destroy it? The elder of Danji said calmly, so what's the problem in the nascent soul stage? The Five Elements Chaos Sutra we practice has the effect of killing enemies across levels, especially the Chaos Palm. If one person has one palm for all Danji stages, even if it can't killing them will also show them the determination of our Five Elements sect so that they can retreat. A look of determination flashed in the elder's eyes, and he ordered, ask the disciples to guard the mountain gate and don't allow anyone to come in again. I will inform all the elders to gather at the back of the mountain. Yes, elder. Seeing that the elder was not afraid of powerful enemies, the disciple was extremely excited and hurriedly went to do things. The elder took out a talisman and crushed it into pieces. After a while, dozens of Danja people gathered towards the back mountain. Such movement naturally attracted the attention of Nujiao within the sect. Looking at the hurried appearance of these disciples, could there be a powerful enemy from the sky? After a few days of healing and supplemented by pills, Nujiao's injuries have recovered a lot and she has returned to the peak of foundation building. If she hadn't met the Dan Dan period, the Five Elements sect would have allowed her to walk as she pleased. If we really run into trouble, it seems we'd better retreat first. I thought I could continue to cultivate here until the core formation stage. Nujiao's eyes flashed. The Five Elements sect was indeed a good hiding place, not to mention its extremely wide range, and the disciples were also extremely polite. This was even before she used the charm technique. Otherwise, let's take a look and talk about it later. We can't let go of such a good place. After thinking for a while, Nujiao decided to find out what happened. After burning the incense, she frowned slightly. I learned from an ordinary disciple that someone broke into the back mountain and went directly to find Tu Duduo. These days, she has been gossiping about the Five Elements sect and learned that Tu Duduo was a person who had never left the sect. She had the same doubts as the gatekeeper, which made her suddenly feel that she shouldn't be able to fight. Sneak over and take a look. Nujiao took out a storage bag from close to her body, and then took out an invisibility charm. After putting it on her forehead, she quietly hurried towards the back mountain. This invisibility talisman was what Zuyun gave her when she said she wanted to leave the immortal mansion. At the top of the back mountain, the water incarnation stood in front of a cave, poured spiritual power into his mouth, and called softly, "Superfluous, superfluous." Deep in the cave, next to a fire vein, Tu Duduo was shocked. The fire power drawn from the fire vein immediately dissipated, and the elixir in the alchemy furnace instantly turned into dregs. He was not upset, but extremely excited. Master, Master is here. Overjoyed, he had no time to take care of the alchemy matter and rushed out. The cave became quieter, and the fire veins gradually returned to calm. Suddenly, a small head emerged from the fire veins. It looked straight at the direction Tu Duduo left with strange colored eyes, and did not move for a long time. Outside the cave, Disciple Tu Duduo has met the master. Tu Duduo kowtowed directly. If anyone in the Five Elements sect knew about it, they would definitely be surprised. No gift, Shuawawa smiled heartily and said, not bad, unnecessary. You really gave me a big surprise. Master is so ridiculous. This is all the blessing given by Master. I am just following the trend. Don't be humble, Shuawawa said with a smile. This time, I passed by the second place. I wanted to take you away from the place of right and wrong, but I never thought that you have completely controlled the Five Elements sect. Speaking of this, Shui Jianyuan was very pleased and said, now, I want to ask you, do you want to go with me to see a new world and gain a long experience, or do you want to stay here? Tu Duduo was immediately overjoyed, but then he was a little entangled and said, Master, I want to serve you all the time, but this huge sect, with so many disciples, still expects my disciple to refine elixirs for them woolen cloth. Don't you know how to recruit a few more disciples with alchemy talents? The water incarnation thought for a moment and said, this time, we have to go through the Jidan sect, maybe we will gain something. Originally, he wanted to respect Xia Tu's opinion, but when he heard the other party mention alchemy, he immediately remembered that he had to go through the Ji alchemy sect this time. Although, Jidan sect has many methods of alchemy that are against the laws of heaven. But I have to say that the elixirs refined by Jidan sect are quite good, both in terms of technique and quality. There is something we can learn from Jidan sect. Tu Duyu was immediately delighted, and after thinking for a moment, he nodded like pounding garlic paste, Master, I am willing. I have refined quite a few pills these days, which should be enough for them to use for a while. The water incarnation smiled slightly and said, do you, the lower ones work physically, the middle ones work with people, and the upper ones work with wisdom. You are the leader of a sect after all, so you should think more and don't delay your cultivation for these things. When he said this, he couldn't help but think of Yesuanhua again. At the beginning, Yesuanhua also said this to him. However, it was still the beginning, and the relationship between the two was not as good as it was later. At this time, it was actually not necessary to say this to Tu Duyu because of the practice of Five Elements Chaos Sutra and the environment in which Tu Duyu was in. He was only in the Jindan stage, and his realm was a little lower after all. If he could reach the nascent soul stage, and with the help of the methods he taught, such as the four-sided divine beast fist, he would be able to gain a firm foothold in this spiritual world. Disciple will remember the master's teachings. Tu Duyu suddenly realized that the sect was indeed thriving recently, and his disciples were all praising him, but his cultivation was completely delayed. Every day, he was either refining pills or drawing talismans. The progress of the Five Elements Chaos Sutra itself was very slow. If these few were not taught by Zuyun, he would have found it difficult to persist. Okay, the water incarnation smiled slightly, looked outside the mountain, and said, it just so happens that a group of people in the Jindan stage seem to have misunderstood and are rushing here. You explain to them and then follow the master. As he spoke, the water incarnation also sacrificed the flying boat. Originally, he wanted to go to the Five Elements soul trapping array where the remnant soul of the Five Elements wanderer was. But firstly, there was not much time, and secondly, someone was coming outside. There were also two immortals around him, and he felt that there were many problems, so he gave up the idea. Anyway, when he found the real body, he would definitely come back here. Send Tu Duyu back, and let the real body meet the remnant soul of the Five Elements Sanren. The flying boat appeared, and those in the Jindan stage were immediately attracted and rushed here. Before they arrived, the spiritual power was surging, and the air was full of the breath of the Five Elements of spiritual power. They were still in the Jindan stage, so their power was naturally not as pure as Zuyun's. You, quickly disperse the spiritual power. Tu Duyu gave the water incarnation an apologetic look, and then shouted sternly. "Master, are you okay?" An elder immediately landed, secretly glanced at the water incarnation, and hurriedly said to Tu Duyu. "Humph, do you think the sect master looks like he has something to do?" Tu Duyu showed off his master's majesty, raised his head slightly, looked at the water incarnation, and said, "This is a distinguished guest of our sect, an old acquaintance of our sect master, and a benefactor of our Five Elements sect." As soon as these words came out, everyone knew it immediately and dispersed their chaotic power. The grayish-white color in the sky, like clouds covering the top of the back mountain, also guided the direction of Nujiao, who came from afar. As I expected, there was no fight. In this way, they won't be alert, and I can get in a little bit more. Nujiao immediately made a judgment and rushed over there with her body skills. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1372. Shui Huashan's own soul was not strong enough, and in the Five Elements sect, no one thought that someone would sneak over. As a result, Nu Jiao easily sneaked to the back mountain and hid behind a huge rock. The moment she saw the water incarnation, she couldn't help but be shocked. No matter what, she didn't expect that it would be Zuyun's incarnation who came. If it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't seriously injured, I would definitely kill this incarnation. She practiced the divine eye technique. Although she didn't use spiritual power, it also greatly changed her eyesight. And she was born with the magic eye. Even if the magic eye is gone, this talent is innate. Okay, now that we have explained it, we should set off. The water incarnation smiled and called Tu Duyu to get on the flying boat, and the rest of the Jindan stage had already dispersed. "Yes, master." Tu Duyu respectfully got on the flying boat, and the flying boat turned into a golden light and rushed into the sky. In an instant, only Nu Jiao was left here. Tu Duyu is actually Zuyun's apprentice. Nu Jiao was a little interested at first, but after a little thought, she figured out the key point. They all have 5 spiritual roots. Tu Duyu, who is in the Jindan stage, can become the sect master here. Obviously, he has extraordinary means. This makes sense. And he chose this place for retreat, which means that there might be an opportunity here. In order to quickly recover his realm and find his magic knife and magic eye, he must be in the Jindan stage at least. Through various speculations, she felt that Zuyun must be hiding something. The magic knife and magic eye are closely related to him. The most important thing is, Zuyun himself is only in the Huashan stage, so the people related to him are at most in the Yuanying stage, right? And she is in the Jindan stage, and she is fully capable of fighting. It just so happens that this is a forbidden area, no one comes here, it's best to stay here and search. Nu Jiao decided to stay immediately, and her eyes were set on the cave. Wherever she looked, she immediately felt the rich fire spirit power in it. On the other hand, the other caves were all set up with formations and restrictions, which could not be broken for a while. Then let's hide here first. Nu Jiao entered the cave and found that the cave was very deep and the bottom could not be seen at a glance. It seems that this cave has a mystery. Let's see how deep it is. Maybe we can find some elixirs left by Tu Duyu. In the past few days, she also heard the news that all the elixirs of the Five Elements sect were actually made by Tu Duyu. Thinking of Zuyun's alchemy skills and the scene where Tu Duyu called him master before, Nu Jiao was looking forward to it more and more. The cave was deep, and Nu Jiao was wearing an invisibility talisman and did not use spiritual power. When she arrived at the edge of the fire vein, she found a child in his teens who was actually making elixirs. The child led the fire spiritual power in the fire vein with one hand, and kept putting spiritual medicine into the furnace with the other hand. There are still people refining pills. Nu Jiao frowned. She could feel that the pills made by this child were actually intermediate pills. Unbelievable. Most people in the sect were still taking primary pills, but this child was refining intermediate pills. Something must be wrong when things are abnormal. Now that Tu Duyu has left, will this child be refining pills recklessly? Nu Jiao did not show her figure. Intermediate pills are of great help to her. And the boy in front of her was only in the early stage of foundation building, which surprised her a little. Let's see what happens first. If this boy is dissatisfied after refining the pill, he can keep it first and then take it away in one fell swoop. This child was the little black boy who was saved by Zuyun at that time. At that time, he had been hiding in the valley and was almost extracted from his spiritual roots to be refined into the 5-spirit blood pill. Although he was saved by Zuyun later, he hated Zuyun. Just because. At that time in that room, Zuyun gave Tu Duyu a chance, but didn't give him. Comparing the two, hatred naturally arises. It's not the lack of knowledge that is worrying, but the inequality of knowledge, which is the true portrayal of Xianxia. He took advantage of Zuyun teaching Tu Duyu skills to learn a lot on the side, and Tu Duyu left a few books in that room at that time, so he also took the time to learn secretly. Moreover, he also learned the 5 elements escape technique. Tu Duyu didn't pay too much attention, which allowed Xianxia to grow up slowly. He even successfully built a foundation. Xianxia's talent in cultivation is not obvious, but his ability to refine pills is much stronger than Tu Duyu. This also made him know that if he wants to quickly increase his strength, he can only do it through alchemy. As long as he can refine the 5-spirit pill, his strength can grow rapidly. At that time, the people of the 5 elements section will all die. No one knows how much Xianxia hates the 5 elements sect. This hatred is the driving force of his cultivation. In front of us is the Jiden section. Ji Tianqing was familiar with the Jiden sect, and the water incarnation only remembered the way out of the forbidden area. They did not rush over, but let the flying boat land at the junction of Tianhuitian and Kunlun. They did not know the current situation of the Jiden section. If they ran into someone, it would be more trouble than gain. Master, this Jiden sect does not seem to belong to this Tianhuitian. Tu Duyu asked the water incarnation in a low voice. Yes, Tianhuitian is the flying mountain outside the sky, and Kunlun belongs to another place. Finally, it landed in Tianhuitian. Hearing Zuyun's explanation, Tu Duyu was extremely shocked. He really has never seen the world. Such a character was cultivated in the outer sect of the 5 elements sect. Along the way, he kept lying on the side of the flying boat, watching the scene below. It's just that today's Tianhuitian is not as good as before. The damage and vibrations in the ascended immortal secret realm can startle those old monsters in seclusion. You can imagine how big the movement can be. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any trouble along the way. Maybe it's because the spirit of water incarnation is not strong, and the strength shown is only in the spirit transformation stage. Ji Tianqing also deliberately restrained her disguised aura of overcoming the tribulation, and the immortal emperor did not have any fluctuations in spiritual power. As for applying too much, a period of forming an elixir will definitely be ignored by others. These people in Tianhuitian are too busy to take care of themselves that they will not cause trouble to this little monk in their eyes. Including Hu Chong and others who were originally in Yaoang Valley. It seems to be Zuyun's aura, but this aura is a little different. Long Wu squinted his eyes and looked in the direction of Ji Dan sect. Zuyun. Sun Qinyang's eyes lit up. Last time, they wanted to join forces to kill Xianxia, but Xianxia broke through instead. With the 3 people in the tribulation stage, there was no way they could do it. As a result, the Dozhuan star shifting formation with the addition of the 12 demon positions was not fully utilized at all. Sword Phoenix, Longwu glanced at her and said, the previous vibrations in the outer world have been determined to be caused by the collapse of the Xianxian secret realm. Fortunately, you and Meng Xianzi did not go in, otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. Then Zuyun should be fine? And Senior Longwu, is the aura of Zuyun you mentioned also an incarnation of him? Compared to others, Mengwei knew more, and Zuyun could transform into 5 incarnations. Perhaps this one is an incarnation of him that has never been revealed. I have seen previous incarnations, but this one is completely different. I can't be sure. Longwu shook his head. These days, they have been holding back and did not dare to act rashly. After all, Tianwei Tianzhen has produced so many hidden powers, each one more evil than the other. After all, Longwu had been staying in Tianweishan for 10,000 years, and he didn't know that this place was full of dangers. Whether it's the immortal platform or the immortal secret realm. He felt that the people who appeared were just like that. But now, there are undercurrents surging in the sky, and he is a little panicked. There is nothing to say here. How about we go take a look? The big dog held the sword in his arms, stood up, and said, when the secret realm of Xianxia was opened, we all saw that all the monks above the Yuanying of the Jidan sect had gone to the depths of Kunlun. At worst, we all dispatched to go to the Jidan section. Let's find out. If the situation is not right, let's buy the elixir. I don't think the other party will start a war with us at will. It's not impossible, Hu Chong said thoughtfully. Jidan sect also knows about the existence of our Medicine King Valley, so let's use this as an excuse. Now that the world is outside, it feels like it's not that easy to live in peace, so we can only take the initiative to seek changes. Although Hu Chong is not the most powerful person, but it has the most prestige. The 12 demon saints, plus Sun Qiniang, Mengwei, and Daegu, don't look bad at all. Let's go to Jidan sect. After having nothing to care about, a group of people directly showed their magical powers, jumped into the air, and flew towards the periphery of Jidan sect. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1373. No, someone is coming. The people in Yaoang Valley did not hide anything at all and just flew over carelessly, immediately attracting the attention of Shui Jiahua and others. Tu Duduo and the Immortal Emperor felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy. On the contrary, Ji Tianqing and Shui Jiajia looked strange. Then, it turned into a surprise. It doesn't matter, Water Avatar looked at the Immortal Emperor and said, we are all good friends. Good friend. The Immortal Emperor was stunned, and Tu Duduo wiped away the cold sweat and dispersed the concentrated chaos power. Xiaji, Shuawawa winked and said, let's go meet old acquaintances together. Hearing this title, Ji Tianqing is a mute who eats yellow lotus and cannot express her suffering. After all, that's what those demon saints called him. Ha ha ha. Zuyun laughed loudly, rose into the sky, and moved closer to those people. Zuyun, it's really you. Mengwei recognized the water incarnation from a distance. Although she had never seen the water incarnation before, she was sure of it at a glance. Wish Yun. Owner. Zuyun boy. Various names came one after another, and after a while, they all floated in front of the water incarnation. Huh? Xiaji, you're not dead. The chicken demon saint said jokingly. Even if you die, old chicken, I won't die. Ji Tianqing said bitterly, yes, if he returns to Qingping Fairy Kingdom, he will live forever. He is someone who really dares to compare his longevity with the demon cultivator. Okay, let's go down and talk about it. It's not good to alert the Jidan sect with such a big fanfare. The water incarnation smiled and led everyone down. Who are these two people? Hu Chong looked at the other two people. The Immortal Emperor has no spiritual power, but his aura is extraordinary. At first glance, he looks like a man with a story. But apply too much. But it is the genuine Dan formation period. What does Zuyun do with the pill forming period? Let me introduce you. Shuawawa smiled and pointed at Tu Duduo. This is my apprentice, Tu Duduo. Tu Duduo quickly bowed and saluted. Juniors have met all seniors. Zuyun, you can do that. Have you started accepting apprentices? When she mentioned this, Sun Qiniang couldn't help but think of her apprentice, Zhu Feng. Qiniang, Shuawawa heard the sour taste and smiled. I am the disciple of the Five Elements sect. Hiss. How could they not know the reputation of the Five Elements sect? Not to mention, Hu Chong and others had just settled down in Tianweishan, but Xianxia came to visit them. In the end, the Balian sect laid a dragnet, but Xianxia broke through to the void refining stage instead. As a result, the Five Elements sect changed its leader? How could they not be surprised? Shuawawa smiled, without explaining too much, and pointed at the Immortal Emperor. He wanted to say that he was the Emperor of Qingping Immortal Kingdom, but as he spoke, he remembered that they might not have any idea about Qingping Immortal Kingdom, so he simply said, he is Ji Tianqing's ancestor. Although Ji Tianqing is not very strong, she still gets along well with the demon saint, and it can bring them closer. The chicken demon saint blurted out, so he is Xiaji's ancestor? I am the chicken demon saint. Everyone is used to calling me Laoji. I can't call you Laoji, lest I call the wrong person. Why don't I just call you Deji? The Immortal Emperor couldn't laugh. It doesn't matter to him what you call him. However, these 12 demon saints really scared him. 12 neat demon tribes. They happen to be all the demon clans in Qingping Fairy Kingdom. He watched the water materialize. Daji, Shuawawa smiled, you will know when the time comes. They are all trustworthy people. I know, let's talk about everything after we get back. Now, he just wants to go back to Qingping Immortal Kingdom to stabilize his mind, thinking that maybe this can bring some changes to Qingping Immortal Kingdom. You can even use these demon saints to eradicate dissidents. By then, if the Qingping Immortal Kingdom can really connect with the spirit world, he will be worthy of being the Immortal Emperor. Thinking of this, he nodded to all the demon saints. This is Sun Qiniang, known as Sword Phoenix. The 12 demon saints need no introduction. I believe the Immortal Emperor can recognize them. The avatar of water helped them introduce Sun Qiniang. This is Mengwei. Water transformation thought for a moment. It seemed that Mengwei didn't have a name. He couldn't help scratching his head and said, a fire cultivator without spiritual roots. No spiritual roots? Immortal Emperor's eyes suddenly lit up. This is Senior who is proficient in medicine. Medicine. The Immortal Emperor's breathing was rapid. Yan Hunsen is a medicine, an elixir, a pseudo-elixir, and even more of a poison. If you are proficient in medicine, can you find the antidote to Yan Hunsen? In this way, it seems that all the troubles in Qingping Fairy Kingdom can be solved. Zuyun is really our noble man. And he, the big dog, makes me angry. The last one mentioned big dog. The Immortal Emperor originally thought that this was a very powerful sword cultivator. But if you look closely, you can't find any features at all except the big head. However, since it is a child, he must be given face. Wait until you get to the fairyland and see if there are any suitable fake fairy weapons. Giving him some will mean nothing at all. The Immortal Emperor nodded and saluted the big dog. Okay, we all know each other, Shuawawa smiled and said, last time, my avatar had a little accident in Balianzong. It was a twists and turns. Before meeting you, I just left the mortal world. I won't mention the reason for coming back. I am in the secret realm of the immortal, but what happened is not clear yet. Longwu asked, Zuyun, are you here to find out what's going on this time? As far as we know, the secret realm of Xianxia has completely collapsed. Everyone's expressions were not good looking. At first, they did not know that Zhu Yun's true form was inside. And the collapse of the secret realm, does it mean that Zhu Yun's body is really gone? The situation of the original body is not clear yet. The water incarnation shook his head and said, "There is something more important to do this time, which is to go to an indescribably wonderful place. And this is related to the rise and fall of the entire spiritual world." What place is so important? Seeing the water incarnation himself did not mention the matter of the true body, and it was difficult for others to ask questions, but the matter of the spiritual world was indeed of great importance. The next time they practice, they will all be in the spirit world. It's very important. Water Avatar nodded and said, "You'll know when we go. Originally, I planned to go with just the four of us. But now, it's just the right time for you to come and save a lot of trouble." That's true. Hu Chang also stood up at this time and said, "Recently, the world is full of evil." He told Shui Jiahua one by one the news he had discovered over the past few days. When he heard about the evil cultivators, Shui Jiahua's expression also changed dramatically. He knew that there were evil cultivators in heaven, but he didn't expect that there would be so many. Only when you have fought against an evil cultivator can you know how terrifying the evil cultivator is. We'll take a long-term approach after we resolve the matter there. The water incarnation has made a decision and now knows nothing about the situation of the evil cultivators. There are priorities. If the matter in the Qingping Immortal Kingdom can be resolved, the Immortal Emperor may be able to provide some combat power to deal with the evil cultivators. Nowadays, a lot of great powers in the spiritual world have been damaged. If you want to unite to fight against evil cultivators, you need someone to do it. Okay, we listen to you. Everyone was extremely convinced of Zhu Yun, and even if an incarnation was in charge at this time, they would not have any objections. The group of people quickly rushed towards Jiden sect. Under the leadership of Shui Jiahua and Ji Tianqing, there was no obstacle all the way. During this period, I also met many ordinary disciples of Jiden sect. After arresting a few people, they were all overjoyed to learn that there was indeed no monk above nascent soul within the sect. Zhu Yun, these people are not true disciples of Jiden section. The Immortal Emperor said in a deep voice. Long Wu responded, "Indeed, the true disciples of the Jiden sect have an aura that neither belongs to humans nor to demons. They seem a bit like demonic cultivators, but they are different from demonic cultivators." Even the Immortal Emperor didn't know that the direct descendants of the Ji Dan sect actually had the blood of the Ji Demon clan. What's more, what about these people? So, for all the Ji Dan sect to go to the Ascension secret realm, it's not as simple as looking for the so-called elixir. Only Zhu Yun himself knew the secret of GMO. The water incarnation at that time had separated as early as the Qingping Fairy Kingdom. If the memories are not connected, it is naturally impossible to know. The water incarnation sighed, how could there be so many things in a spiritual world? Soon, they appeared in the forbidden area of the back mountain. Water Avatar took out a handful of breath-condensing pills and said, "Enter this formation. Each person takes one pill, and after using the power of the medicine to gather the breath, you can enter that place." By the time everyone appeared at the entrance to Qingping Fairy Kingdom, they had all swallowed the pill. The wooden incarnation looked solemn as he hit a stone wall. Bang! With a soft sound, the wooden incarnation was bounced back. The face of the water incarnation suddenly changed. Unexpectedly, he couldn't get in? What's going on? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1374. At that time, he coerced the cultivator who sneaked into Qingping Immortal Country. But he didn't expect that the cultivator had a trick up his sleeve and actually escaped back to Qingping Immortal Country. He didn't have any extra breath-retaining pills, so he couldn't chase into Qingping Immortal Country. but it was confirmed that the other party entered through here. Zuyun, what's wrong? Seeing that the water incarnation didn't enter, the immortal emperor knew that he must have encountered trouble. Something happened. The water incarnation put away his expression and said seriously, I don't know what went wrong. But at that time, I did come out from here. The Jiden sect disciple who was caught by me might be afraid that I would kill him, so he escaped from here again. The immortal emperor frowned when he heard this. The water incarnation had no need to lie to him. It was impossible to lie to him. It seems that we can only use the last method. The immortal emperor looked at the water incarnation, just waiting for his order, and they would rush to the mortal world. It's too far. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it in time. Besides, it's not that easy to go to the mortal realm. It's easy to come to the spirit realm from the mortal realm, as long as you know the route. But if they go against the passage, not only will their strength be suppressed by the heavenly Deo, there are many obstacles and they need to pay a huge price. What should I do? The immortal emperor was anxious. If he didn't go back, it would be useless for him to stay in the spirit realm. Besides, if someone in the immortal realm found out that he was gone, who knew if those people with ulterior motives would rebel? Qingping immortal realm was his foundation. At least it was like this before he ascended. Huh. The water incarnation let out a long breath, his eyes swept over the demon saints, and suddenly a flash of inspiration appeared in his mind. Maybe, there is a way to get to Dongsheng realm quickly. Dongsheng realm. Longwu exclaimed, Zuyun, do you want to go in the opposite direction through the passage of Dongsheng realm? Among the people present, he was the only one who followed the previous dragon demon emperor from the cliff of heaven. And that time, the loss was heavy. The powerful demon dragon clan, after arriving in the spirit world, only had dozens of clan members left. Longwu also survived by chance. Not bad. The water incarnation narrowed his eyes and looked at the Jiden peak. He remembered that once, he felt that from a certain angle, it looked like the cliff of the sky. There are only 12 kinds of heavenly demon clans in the Qingping fairyland. Various connections made him extremely sure that Kunlun Mountain might just be pressed at a certain junction between Dongsheng realm and the spirit world. Through Kunlun, you can definitely return to Dongsheng realm. This is the best way at present. There is no choice. The crisis in the spirit world can only be solved through this trip. The water incarnation said loudly. In that case, we will listen to you. Hu Chong and others expressed their opinions one after another. Okay, let's go for it, the water incarnation said with a gleam in his eyes. With concerted efforts, we can definitely return to the mortal world. Let's go to Jiden Peak. At that time, Zuyun discovered the clue on Jiden Peak. And Kunlun does have a natural formation. Only from a high point can you see it clearly. Let's go. Everyone walked out of the formation and flew towards Jiden Peak. Soon, they landed halfway up the mountain. The height here is enough. The disciples of Jiden sect were trembling with fear, thinking that someone was taking advantage of the chaos in the spiritual world to rob them. This kind of thing has happened before. However, they came secretly at that time. Unexpectedly, this time, the Ascension secret realm collapsed, and these people actually robbed Jiden Peak openly. For a while, these disciples wanted to leave and fled down the mountain. Shui Huashan and others did not come for them. Seeing that Jiden sect was disbanded, they were naturally happy to see it. Everyone, this formation is very complicated. I need some time. Now, Kunlun has strange phenomena, the outer world is shaking, and the evil cultivators and demon cultivators have all come out. I hope you can help protect the law. Don't worry, we haven't been idle these days. As soon as Longwu finished speaking, the 12 demon saints also moved. The 12 demon positions that followed the changing of the stars stood still one after another, and faintly exuded a mysterious breath of power. I didn't expect that you could form a formation. The water incarnation was very surprised. They integrated their knowledge and turned their 12 demon ways into a formation alone. After all, our strength is not strong. If we want to live well, don't we have to do this? Longwu grinned, and then looked ahead. The 12 demon saints stood still, and gradually their breath merged between heaven and earth, like 12 natural statues. Awesome! The water incarnation praised sincerely, and then saw Sun Qiniang whistled softly. A ball of fire flew out from her sleeves, turned into a young phoenix, and then rushed to the top of the Jidan peak. I'll come too. Meng Wei was not willing to be outdone, her delicate body shook, and a fire snake flew out from her brows. A closer look revealed that it was actually a smaller version of a fire dragon. Heavenly fire dragon. The water incarnation remembered that Meng Wei had merged this heavenly fire at that time. I didn't expect that this heavenly fire dragon could be transformed into a real dragon after being shrunk. Thinking that both women had a secret crush on him, they didn't fight. The water incarnation thought of a word for no reason, crouching dragon and phoenix chick. He touched his nose. He saw the big dog stepping up again, holding a heavy sword in both hands, and protecting him expressionlessly. Although he was not strong, he had the momentum of one man guarding the pass and 10,000 men unable to open it. Xiaozu, if a strong enemy attacks, I will definitely die before you. The water incarnation smiled bitterly, can you speak? If there is a strong enemy, run quickly, I am just an incarnation, and the Xianguang sect has another one. With the immortal emperor away, it seems that many royal cities in Qingping Immortal Kingdom are ready to move. Walking all the way to the imperial city, Zuyun had a feeling that a storm was about to come. The immortal emperor had previously ordered that no action should be taken against foreigners from the immortal kingdom. In addition, these royal cities seemed to know that the immortal emperor was not in the immortal kingdom, and they had no time to care about Zuyun. For them, fighting with spiritual world cultivators, realm and immortal roots had nothing to do with each other. Even if they found Zuyun, they could not judge whether they could easily kill him. Zuyun was also happy to be relaxed. But the closer he got to the imperial city, the more he felt something was wrong. There was a spy in the imperial city. This is the imperial palace, stop. Two gatekeepers stopped Zuyun in front of the main gate of the imperial palace. Zuyun touched his nose and said, I'm looking for He Xianguan. Now, the only person he knew inside was He Xianguan. And he was just an acquaintance, not a close friend. He Xianguan. The two guards looked at each other. He Xianguan was highly valued by the immortal emperor. But the immortal emperor was gone. He Xianguan had no use at all. Unless he was by the broken immortal river, others would not dare to provoke him. So, He Xianguan seemed to have been banished to the cold palace. No one tried to win him over, because it was unnecessary and might even have a counter effect. Yes, He Xianguan, Zuyun thought for a moment and said, could you please inform him? You go, looking at the slightly older guard, winked at his companion, then looked at Zuyun and said, what's your name? My name is Zuyun. Okay, wait a moment. The guard nodded, and another young guard ran into the palace. After an incense stick, He Xianguan didn't come. He had to keep an eye on the situation of Duanxian River, so he couldn't leave at will unless there was something important, but he sent one of his confidants. He Xianguan asks this fellow Taoist to come over. Zuyun breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this. If it doesn't work, he can only go to Daxianwang. But it will probably take a lot of time to go back and forth. He also made the worst plan for this time. The Ascension secret realm has been destroyed, and he must return to the spirit realm as soon as possible to find the immortal emperor and Ji Tianqing. Moreover, he has to bring some pseudo-immortal crystals and pseudo-immortal beads back just in case. Your Majesty took you away, why did you come back but His Majesty didn't? Xianguan stared at Zhu Yun. He has been in this room all the time, but he is not a person who doesn't care about what's happening outside. If there is a little accident, I will go through the teleportation array to meet up with the Immortal Emperor now. Zhu Yun didn't hide it. You mean, the Immortal Emperor really went outside the Immortal Kingdom? Xianguan trembled. Yes, Zhu Yun said seriously, I think if I go again this time, I can solve the problem of connecting the two worlds. By then, Xianguan can also pursue the Great Dao. Boy, I can believe you, but... Xianguan hesitated. But what? But, I want to go with you. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1375. Are you coming with me? Zhu Yun frowned. In the spiritual world, the immortal emperor doesn't have much fighting power. What's the use of being a river immortal official? But Xianguan's tone was firm and he said, don't say anything righteous. I have already noticed the undercurrent in the imperial city. If I stay here, I will die in the end. Then if I stay here, I might as well stay with you. Leave Qingping Fairy Kingdom. Zhu Yun smiled, but the spiritual world is not necessarily safe. You know, I also accidentally returned to Qingping Immortal Kingdom, and before that, I was still fighting people to death. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but think of the last scene before coma. The demon refining tower, Zhu Feng, and the blood moon magic weapon are all gone. Things in the world are unpredictable. Who can guarantee that he will still be able to live peacefully in the spiritual world? Boy, this is not something you worry about. I am self-aware. If I die outside, I will have no regrets. Hearing this, Zhu Yun knew that he couldn't get rid of him, so he simply said, that's fine, but before I go, I need you to prepare some fake fairy beads and some purple smoke stones. I don't have these things. Official Xian simply shook his head, but before Zhu Yun could speak, he added, however, I know that His Majesty has a treasure trove. You can bring it with you if you can help me. Suddenly, Zhu Yun said with great joy, how many are there? There are more than 100 fake fairy beads, but there are only dozens of purple smoke stones. That's enough, Zhu Yun nodded repeatedly and said, there are not many purple smoke stones needed this time, a dozen are completely enough. And the fake fairy beads are actually for you. After all, there are no fake fairy beads in the spiritual world. Xianli. He was telling the truth. Why is the immortal emperor so incompetent? Is it because he has no pseudo-immortal power? What he hides in his body will slowly dissipate even if it is not used in the spirit world. Okay, let's set off. Half an hour later, Zhu Yun and Xianguan stood in front of the formation in the bedroom. After taking out the purple smoke stones and putting them into the formation eyes one by one, the two of them couldn't wait to stand up. As the purple pseudo-immortal power began to swirl, Zhu Yun couldn't help but calm down. The last time this formation started to be transmitted, the force of tearing the space also made him suffer a lot. But gradually, he discovered that something was wrong. The pseudo-immortal power of purple power enveloped the entire formation, but there was no reaction from the formation. Until these forces collapsed again, they were still standing where they were. At this time, Zhu Yun and Xianguan were both stunned and couldn't believe it. Not to mention Zhu Yun, Xianguan had also been to the Misty Mountain Forest once before and knew that Zhu Yun was not mistaken. But now, what is going on? The two of them stared at each other, and no one could tell the reason. Boy Zhu Yun, what is going on? Zhu Yun said helplessly, ask me, who am I to ask? I didn't arrange this array. Last time, the Immortal Emperor took me out like this too. Could it be that the other end of the formation was destroyed? Official Xian secretly guessed, but Zhu Yun shook his head. The misty mountains and forests belong to the mortal world. Ordinary monks will not destroy this teleportation array idly, and ordinary people cannot understand it. And even if you understand the power of the formation, you will not come down from the spirit world and come all the way here. Where did the accident happen? Zuyun frowned and couldn't think of the reason. Until the ground suddenly shook, waking the two of them up. It's over, those immortal kings must have rebelled. Official Hexian suddenly screamed. What? Rebellion? Zuyun was also shocked. He had expected this to happen, so he wanted to leave the immortal kingdom early and find the immortal emperor. But this happened so quickly? Right now, he can't leave the imperial city. What to do, what to do? Xianxia was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, spinning around in circles. Go out and take a look first. From the outside, there were sounds of killing from time to time. It was obvious that those people had entered the palace and were heading towards this dormitory. This secret room will be discovered sooner or later. Although the formation cannot be used for the time being, it can delay it for some time. Go out and have a look. Zuyun said nothing and rushed forward. As soon as he got out from under the bed, he heard a bang and the door of the bedroom was kicked open. When he saw that there was no immortal emperor but only Zuyun, the visitor narrowed his eyes and shouted in a deep voice, "Who are you? Where is your majesty? Have you been harmed?" "Who are you?" Zuyun raised his eyebrows. Looking at the other party's attire, he was obviously an immortal king. However, he pretended not to know and said, "Trespassing to His Majesty's palace without permission, are you seeking death? I think it's you who is looking for death, right?" The immortal king smiled coldly, reached out and slapped Zuyun with his palm. Between the palms, pseudo-immortal power flows, and there is a 5-finger palm print. Is this Xianxia? Zuyun was confused, but his reaction was not slow. With a quick lightning escape technique, he had already escaped outside the palace. When facing an enemy from a fairy country, you must first know the opponent's fairy roots before you can find a solution. These immortal foreigners are full of tricks, come on. As soon as Zuyun appeared, he heard angry shouts from ahead. After a closer look, he realized that the entire palace was actually densely surrounded by fully armed immortals. No wonder you are so confident. His pupils shrank and his figure disappeared again. He couldn't guarantee that there was no one among the immortals who could restrain him. Call out! Call out! Call out! Seeing Zuyun Dunyun, more than 10 immortal officials gathered their pseudo-immortal power and transformed into longbows in their hands. They bent down to pick up arrows and fired towards Zuyun. "Hey, I'm running fast, what are you going to shoot with?" Zuyun's figure was extremely flexible. Sometimes he used the thunder escape technique, and sometimes he used teleportation, so that they could not detect the pattern at all. It's not that easy to run away. The immortal king took out an immortal talisman and quickly said something over there. After saying that, he launched a fake immortal boat and led a group of immortal officials to chase after him. "Oh, let you also taste my power." Seeing that they were chasing after them, and they were not able to shoot arrows on the fake ferry boat, Zuyun stretched out his hand and drew a heavenly talisman. Fall. The flying boat suddenly stagnated, and countless immortal officials fell to the ground. Ha ha ha. Zuyunchang laughed and continued to fly towards the Duanxian River. Unexpectedly, a spear suddenly came towards him, pointing directly between his eyebrows. So fast. Wherever the golden light came, Zuyun quickly flashed past, and then saw the person clearly. He is also an immortal king. Two kings working together to rebel? Zuyun didn't have time to think too much, and slapped the immortal king with a backhand palm. Chaos palm. The majestic chaos force stirred up the spiritual energy in the air, and the immortal king couldn't fly. He just jumped up using his marksmanship skills and couldn't stay in the air at all. This palm was exactly aimed at the direction of his fall. Bang! Seeing the powerful attack, the gun immortal king quickly blocked his spear and flew backwards. But as soon as the immediate crisis was resolved, murderous intent suddenly appeared under Zhu Yun's feet. Damn it, how many immortal kings are there to rebel? This was in the direction of his feet. Zhu Yun couldn't bear it immediately, so he immediately dodged and fled towards the ground. Although this loses the advantage of being able to fly, it can also reduce the direction in which it can be hit. But just as he landed on the ground, countless immortals with immortal officials in their hands appeared out of nowhere and surrounded him, holding all kinds of fake immortal weapons. Damn it, is the entire immortal kingdom rebelling? Zhu Yun was stunned. With so many immortals, if one person spits, he will be drowned. Fortunately, he still has an escape technique available. Earth escape technique. Zhu Yun's body flashed, and he escaped directly into the ground, and then fled frantically towards the Duanxian River. As long as they reach the Duanxian River, these immortal officials still dare to be enemies with him. Say it again. There are still ambushes he has laid in Duanxian River. As long as he gives the order, Xiaolu will definitely bring these hidden monsters out. Zhu Yun was a little anxious, thinking that he could not leave Qingping Fairy Kingdom for the time being, and should he go into the world of Dazhu to hide from the limelight. But after entering the universe world, you still have to come out. Moreover, if he enters from here, he will appear from here again. If the imperial city is controlled by these immortal emperors, he may still face such a situation. Instead of the other party taking complete control of the situation at that time, it is better to find an opportunity to kill them now. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun gave up other thoughts and chased towards the Duanxian River. After a moment, he finally rushed into the Duanxian River and felt Xiaolu's presence. Master, you are finally here. At the bottom of the Duanxian River, Xiao Green transformed into a human form and said to Zhu Yun Yu. These days, he was exhausted. Every once in a while, you have to appease those monsters. In order to prevent the monsters from losing control and making some noise. I'm also very helpless. Zhu Yun touched his nose and said, you have been in Duanxian River, have you heard any news? Master, you think too highly of me. Although I am a real dragon, I don't seem to be doing well in this fairyland. I really don't dare to go out. So, you don't know what happened recently? Not really. Xiaolu looked up at the river and said, the situation outside is unclear, but master, take a closer look. Is the yellow sand in the Duanxian River not so dense anymore? After hearing this, Zhu Yun was also stunned. He looked carefully and found that it seemed to be true. He also stayed in the Duanxian River, but he couldn't see the sun in the direction of the river. But at this time, a sun can be vaguely seen, shaking continuously under the influence of water waves. It's strange. There will be less good yellow sand? Could it be that this is the lower reaches of the Duanxian River? Zhu Yun's guess was rejected by Xiaolu. Master, you didn't know this when you first came, but we have been here for a long time. Such a change was caused by the sudden earthquake in the imperial city. Sudden shock. Qingping Fairy Kingdom collapsed. This reminded Zhu Yun of the collapse of the Xianxia secret realm. Did it also affect the Qingping Immortal Kingdom? It's not that the ground collapsed. Anyway, after shaking for several days, the Duanxian River set off huge waves. It seems that it also wetted many immortal officials and corroded their immortal roots. Zhu Yun frowned. Didn't the Hexian official solve the accident in Duanxian? If he comes out to solve it? So has he discovered the monster in the broken immortal river? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1376. Zhu Yun couldn't be sure, so he decided to wait and see the situation. After all, No one knew what the situation was in the imperial city now. Although he could disguise himself as anyone, he couldn't walk in the fairyland because he couldn't pretend to have fairy roots. However, this also made him suspicious of Xianxia. Fortunately, he had a lot of fake fairy beads in his hand, but it was a pity that he wasted those purple smoke stones. Purple smoke stones are inferior fairy crystals. The fairy emperor told him. Let's put it aside for now, just in case. Zuyun thought about it and took out the fake fairy beads. These beads are full of fake fairy power, which the fairy emperor prepared to use in the spirit world. But last time, no one thought that he would go directly to the spirit world and couldn't go back. With so many fairy kings rebelling, I can't do it alone, so I have to make more preparations. I can only ignore the fairy emperor for the time being. Zuyun thought about it and decided to prepare himself. His ability to fight alone is strong. But the chaos power will eventually run out. If all these pseudo-immortal beads are filled with chaos power, then their sustained combat capability will be greatly increased. Zuyun did what he said, and ordered Xiaolu to continue guarding here, while he fled upstream along the broken immortal river. He wanted to leave the imperial city, enter the immortal mansion, and then fill these pseudo-immortal beads with chaos pearls. An hour later, Zuyun left the imperial city 100 miles away. And a group of immortal kings also appeared in the main hall of the imperial palace. A total of 15 immortal kings gathered here. Apart from them, there was no one else. There is no immortal king in the imperial palace. Maybe he heard the news a long time ago and fled. The spear immortal king said as he swept across the crowd. The immortal emperor was well prepared, this is not surprising. However, let him escape, since we have occupied the palace anyway, it is too late for him to turn the tables. Yes, immortal King Daong is dead. Even if he has someone to use, they are only immortal King Dian and immortal King Day. These two people together are no match for us. I am afraid that the G guy is still holding back. There are many opinions, and everyone expressed their own opinions, and finally brought the topic to Zuyun. The foreigner from the fairyland was very powerful. Does anyone know his origins? I don't know. I went to the side palace and asked all the foreigners from the fairyland who used to work for the fairy emperor. They all said they didn't know him. Humph, the foreigners from the fairyland are very cunning. In my opinion, they should be killed directly to prevent future troubles. If this fails, we haven't established contact with the outside of the fairyland yet. Those foreigners from the fairyland will inevitably be useful. I think that foreigner from the fairyland is quite capable and may know the whereabouts of the fairy emperor. Yes, the foreigners from the fairyland in the palace will be kept for the time being. As long as we find the teleportation formation and then find a way to break the barrier, we can all get the opportunity to ascend. Those people cannot be killed for the time being. On the contrary, the foreigner from the fairyland who escaped must not be let go. After a period of discussion, they decided to hunt down Zuyun. And there is only one way to go if he disappears from the city for no reason. That is broken immortal river. Everyone, send out half of your men to chase along the upper and lower reaches of the broken immortal river. As long as there is a little clue, kill him directly. In the immortal kingdom, there is abundant spiritual power. If he wants to recover, it will be very fast. The spear immortal king was still frightened when he thought of Zuyun's chaos palm. If he hadn't borrowed the momentum of falling, he would have been beaten to ashes by the chaos palm at that time. Of course I know. The immortal kings took out their own immortal talismans and passed the news to their men. Zuyun didn't know that the pursuers would still pester him. At this time, he found another hidden cave in the broken immortal river. After sneaking into it, he felt a lot more at ease. From here to enter the great universe world, and then go to the immortal mansion, there should be no problem. Zuyun said to himself, and his mind moved. The next moment, he was still in the same place. Why, my great universe world, is gone too. Zuyun was completely dumbfounded. If the teleportation array didn't respond, he could understand that there was an accident at the other end of the array. But he couldn't even enter the great universe world. What was going on? Where is the immortal mansion? Let's go into the immortal mansion and take a look. Zuyun frowned and chose to go directly to the immortal mansion. He hadn't gone directly to the immortal mansion for a long time, because this would leave the great universe glass mirror in place. But now, there was an accident in the great universe world, so he had no choice but to do so. Fortunately, the immortal mansion had no effect. He appeared in the cave. With a long sigh, Zuyun walked to the open space with a handful of pseudo-immortal beads. The immortal mansion was the same as before, with no major changes. Except for the bedroom, some demonic energy came out from time to time. This demonic energy is vaguely similar to the one emitted by the extreme demon at that time, from the same source. Zuyun took a look, then retracted his gaze, and finally walked to the edge of the void. After guiding all the pseudo-immortal power to vent, he poured the chaotic power in his body into it. After turning dozens of beads into chaos beads, more than 10 days had passed. Zuyun stood up contentedly. With these beads in hand, he would not be afraid of running out of chaos power in the future. But he thought of another problem. If these beads are directly integrated into the body, can they also provide him with the same effect as the Danshan, like the 5 elements spirit beads? In addition, can all these chaos beads be refined into incarnations one by one? But this idea was quickly dismissed by him. The incarnation is easy to refine, but his soul is not enough to support him in multiple incarnations. Let's talk about it later. It would be great if I can use my chaos power now. After stuffing all the chaos beads into the ring, Zuyun looked at the small courtyard next to the bedroom. This small courtyard once led directly to the world of the universe. But now, I don't know if it will work. Let's see if we can go directly from the immortal mansion to the great universe world. Zuyun walked into the small courtyard and thought. The scene changed, and this time, Zuyun appeared in the world of Dazhu. No surprises. What exactly went wrong? Touching his chin, Zuyun walked towards the world tree. Perhaps, world tree knows the problem. Just as he stood up, he discovered a figure lying on the ground not far away. He was shocked. This was Jogun. At that time, he and Wan Potion jointly attacked Lin Yu and were seriously injured. He never had time to come in afterwards. Zuyun quickly fell over and checked the opponent's injuries. Master, Master. Jogun opened his eyes with difficulty, and when he saw it was Zuyun, there was a glint in his eyes. How are you feeling? Zuyun asked eagerly. This is a high-grade immortal root that was cultivated with great difficulty. As long as you break through to the ultimate immortal root, you will have a chance to ascend. When the time comes, he will have more loyal subordinates in the fairy world and be able to gain a foothold in the fairy world. Fortunately, I can't die, Jogun coughed twice and said, originally, I was almost dead. Then, the world shook for some reason, and then I felt an aura similar to that of Qingping Fairy Kingdom. So his life was hung. The aura of Qingping Fairy Kingdom. Zuyun was stunned, and a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind, but he couldn't catch it. As long as it's okay, I'll take you to the world tree. Even if you can't recover from your injuries, there shouldn't be any big problems. With that said, he picked up Joguan from his waist and flew towards the world tree. But before landing, I heard world tree say in surprise, Master, you are finally here. What, is something wrong? Or, what happened? It's hard to say anything, World Tree said. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a human form. At the same time, World Mountain also rarely appeared, with an extremely solemn expression. I feel that the backside of the universe world seems to have suddenly gained some vitality. This vitality is far richer than our original world. The backside of the universe? What do you mean? Zuyun remembered that he had walked around the universe and knew that the world should be round. So, how can we talk about the backside? Let's put it this way, World Tree squatted down, and a branch appeared out of thin air in his hand. He drew a circle on the ground, put the branch on one side of the circle, and said, if this side is the world of the universe, so. He put the branch on the other end of the circle, then this is the back. Because it is the farthest from here, I can't feel it clearly. You also know that my original power cannot spread to that area. The world of Dazhu is very big, and it will take a lot of time for Zuyun to fly with all his strength. The meaning of World Tree is to let him go and have a look. In the past, there was no problem. At most, it would take some time. But the problem is that the original power cannot be felt, which means that if he goes there, he may not be able to control the original power. It cannot achieve the level of immortality. If there was a real crisis and he fell into his own world, it would be the greatest absurdity in the world. Master, World Tree saw that Zuyun was deep in thought and knew what he was thinking, and said, you can definitely take those snake demons there. After these days, they have also been affected by the totem pole. These snake demons are not only powerful but also powerful, great gain and regain sanity. Zuyun's eyes suddenly lit up. The strength of these snake demons is comparable to those who have just entered the demon holy realm. Even if you do encounter any problems, you can retreat safely. Okay, then I'll go take a look. Zuyun nodded and said to World Tree, by the way, old tree, let's see if you can help Jogun recover. It's not difficult. World Tree immediately saw the problem and said, as long as I enter the power of the source, he will almost be able to recover. It's just a matter of time. Okay, I'll leave it to you then. Zuyun was delighted, thought for a moment, and called Xiaohuo again, let's go, I couldn't ride you last time, this time I'll ride you around for a good ride. Xiaohuo also came to Demon Saint. After a life and death, his strength was greatly improved again. Hearing that Zuyun was going to take him there, he was extremely excited. Half an hour later, behind Zuyun were a group of snake demons that transformed into their own bodies, starting from the east and heading towards the other side of the world. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1377. Extreme Dan Sect. Suddenly no one was there. Those monks who escaped were timid to escape, but bold to move a lot of things. As one of the most mysterious forces in the world, even if all their monks above the nascent soul stage enter the Ascension secret realm, there are still thousands of little monks. So many people, either flying or walking, suddenly poured into Tianweishan from the Kunlun Mountains, which immediately attracted the attention of some monks. Especially evil cultivators. Those evil cultivators who use people to practice. This is simply a walking cultivation resource. Soon, there were some evil cultivators hidden in the depths of Tianweishan, guarding the border between Tianweishan and Kunlun, waiting for the young monks to come to their door. Even in the elixir forming stage, there can't be any trouble. The screams are endless. It also attracted the attention of everyone on Jiden Peak. The water incarnation is breaking the formation. But Menghui and Sun Qiniang had the Phoenix Queen and Sky Fire Dragon observing the situation around them. An evil aura gradually spread in the air. Coupled with the smell of blood and the screams that sounded from time to time, they also felt that something might be wrong. However, no one dares to rush into Kunlun yet. But whether it is Sun Qiniang or Menghui, they are both extremely smart. If anyone who is interested asks more questions, they will definitely know that there is no strong person in Jiden sect. Naturally, someone will break into Jiden sect. Senior Hu, how long will it take for Zuyun to break the formation? Menghui asked worriedly. I don't understand formations either, so I don't know how long Zuyun will be around. Hu Chang shook his head and looked into the distance, as if he saw something. It should be soon, right? Ji Tianqing didn't have the confidence either. He just made a secret calculation and found out that within 10 days, the Jidan sect would cease to exist. In other words, a group of people will kill here. It's sunny. At this moment, the immortal emperor suddenly spoke. Ji Tianqing quickly bowed, "Ancestor. You go to the medicine garden and restore your strength as much as possible. If there is a fight, no one in their realm can be stronger than you except the dragon demon saint." This is true. Ji Tianqing can at least pretend to be in the tribulation stage. Although the level of immortal roots is not as good as his, it has to be said that in this spiritual world, he is not as good as Ji Tianqing. Moreover, there is no way to control some spiritual power like Ji Tianqing. Not to mention anything else, at least it can scare people with the period of transcending tribulation. "Yes, ancestor, I'm going now." Ji Tianqing agreed repeatedly and was about to fly away when Hu Chang said, "I'll take you there. It just so happens that I didn't pay attention to the elixir there before, so I'm going to take a look now." These words seemed to remind the immortal emperor, "Fellow deist Hu, when you come back later, can you give me some guidance?" "Oh? Ancestor Ji wants to ask about the elixir. Hu Chang only has the ability to take action in this area." "Exactly." The immortal emperor was not polite and said with his hands raised, "It doesn't matter. I'll go back as soon as I go. I'll just pick all the elixirs in the medicine garden." After that, Hu Chang took Ji Tianqing and headed towards the medicine garden. Here, silence returned. Except for the slow breathing of Water Avatar, everyone else almost held their breath, for fear that it would affect Water Avatar's understanding of this natural formation. Finally, someone noticed this. He is an evil cultivator. He was wearing a blood-red coat, which was particularly strange, and he suddenly stood at the top of Jidan Peak. "Queen of True Phoenix? Heavenly Fire." Seeing the young phoenix and sky fire dragon hovering on the top of the peak, Xiaxiu's eyes showed greed. Without saying a word, he reached out and grabbed them. "Hold head high. Jiang." The dragon roars and the phoenix roars. This is the warning from the Phoenix Queen and the Sky Fire Dragon. Not good. Mengwei and Sun Qiniang shouted that they were wrong and quickly called them back. "Haha, want to run? It's too late." This evil cultivator's strength reached the stage of transcending tribulation, and his evil methods were weird. When he waved his hand again, the sky of the entire Jidan sect turned blood red. The sky is full of blood, shrouding from the top of the mountain. Sun Qiniang was so horrified that the queen hid in her sleeves and robe. The blood energy had been suppressed. "Qiniang!" Mengwei exclaimed, and the Sky Fire Dragon surged in response. "But she can't compete with the divine transformation stage, so how can she be an enemy?" "Hee, these two little girls are not very advanced, but they are very courageous." The evil cultivator laughed lewdly and did not pay attention to the immortal emperor who had no spiritual power next to him. As for the big dog next to him, he was just a small sword cultivator, so he naturally turned a blind eye. He pressed it casually, and not only did the Skyfire Dragon's surge stop, but it began to shrink. At the same time, under such strong compression, blood overflowed from the corners of Mengwei's mouth. "Wei!" Sun Qiniang gritted her teeth, and the Wind Dragon Thunder Sword flew straight out. At the same time, the light of phoenix fire burst out from her lower abdomen. The Wind Dragon Thunder Sword glowed with thunder and pointed directly at the evil cultivator. "I'm coming too!" The big dog roared angrily, and blood mist erupted all over its body. It flew up in an instant, and slashed at the opponent with its broadsword like a mad sword. "Ha ha ha, even ants dare to resist." The evil cultivator showed a cruel smile. He actually had some thoughts about Sun Qiniang and Mengwei. After all, Both the Sky Fire Dragon and the Phoenix Queen are rare treasures. But big dogs. How dare a little sword cultivator do something to me? He just moved his soul, and with a surge of coercion, he suddenly pressed towards the big dog. Poof! The big dog was covered in blood again. But what he didn't expect was that the big dog only stagnated, but never retreated. Even the long sword is only slightly sluggish. I saw that the big dog's eyes were wide open with anger, as if his eyes were about to fall out, but he still held the sword in his hand tightly. Call out! A flaming red sword energy suddenly shot through the air, actually piercing the physical pressure, and struck at the evil cultivator's eyebrows. Big dog's swordsmanship is unstoppable. No matter what danger you face, never retreat. Don't retreat when you know it's difficult, face it head on. Even if he dies. Boy, arrogant. The evil cultivator was furious. Although this sword energy was very weak, if it stabbed his body, it would be a great shame and humiliation. Get out of my way. He roared angrily and dodged the sword energy. Just as he was about to slap the big dog into pieces with his palm, a sudden change occurred. Do it? Longwu has been looking for opportunities. And the big dog came for them. Naturally, the 12 demon saints standing on this platform all moved out. Longwu is comparable to a demon saint who has transcended tribulations. But compared to this old monster who had been in seclusion for who knows how many years, he was not 100% sure of doing it alone. Therefore, he has not moved. Now that the opportunity has come, how can he hold it back? Following his order, the 12 demon saints all looked up to the sky and roared, and turned into their true bodies. Led by Longwu, the huge demonic dragon rose up, opened its bloody mouth, and bit into the evil cultivator. Why is such a powerful demon saint hiding here? Sensing Longwu's attack, he might bite him in two with one bite. Xianxia had no choice but to give up his attack on the big dog and avoid the edge for the time being. But I never thought that another demonic energy would attack. Lao Jin's real body is slender, but he has a single horn on his forehead pointed directly at the evil cultivator's heart. Court death. The evil cultivator didn't dare to deal with it and stood up again. Woof. The front paws of a pair of demon dogs were already on his shoulders. Get out of here. The evil cultivator was at a loss, and with the aura of Dragon 5 realm in front of him, how could he bother to find out what the strength of the dog demon saint behind him was? He slapped him backwards with his backhand. The dog demon saint released his paws and ducked. But it was a vigorous white shadow, jumping back and forth on the mountain wall not far from the platform. After continuously climbing the height, it jumped up and stabbed the long straight horns on its head towards Tianling Gai like two swords joining the wall. Come over here. It's Brother Dayang. How come there are so many demon saints? Are they from different races, and they cooperate so well? The evil cultivator was horrified. These demon saints were attacking one after another, making him overwhelmed. He thought about it and planned to fly higher and see the situation clearly from above. But I never thought, a cry. Oh oh oh. Chicken Demon King. She flapped her wings, golden light flashed all over her body, and she pointed the chicken head forward and pointed her beak at the evil cultivator. Get out of here, get out of here. It is difficult for evil cultivators to deal with them one by one. The more demon saints appeared, the more panicked he became. In desperation, he gathered all his spiritual power to protect his whole body, forming a huge ball of blood. But as a result, his escape speed became slower. Blow him down. Longwu roared, and the monkey demon saint actually stood on top of Niu Heng's head. He suddenly swung his horns and threw the monkey demon saint up. I saw. The monkey demon saint pulled out a golden needle from his ear. The golden needle suddenly grew in size and turned into a long stick. Get down here. The long stick smashed the blood ball down. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1378. It's my turn, old pig. The pig demon saint rushed over and suppressed the blood droplet beneath him. But how could the evil cultivators in the tribulation period be so easily suppressed by the pig demon saint? He kept struggling, trying to get out from under him. At this time, the rat demon saint took action. Rats are born to dig holes. He ran over, circled the blood ball a few times, and then submerged into the soil. This time, he was pressed tightly by the pig demon saint. Damn, how dare one person hit so many of us? Niu Hung shook his nose and said with disdain. The rabbit demon saint knocked Yi Niu Hung's head and said softly, Old Niu, don't talk, leave it to Long Wu. Although she didn't take action, she kept her ears perked up, listening to what was going on beside her. The momentum just now was huge, and it must have attracted many people to make a move. This time, the 12 demon saints took advantage of the sneak attack and won. But if someone else attacks, you must have taken precautions. Long Wu fell and turned into a human form. Old Zhu, is it stable? Not bad, the old pig said with a snort. With the help of the mouse, he will definitely not be able to escape unless he escapes. That's good, Long Wu nodded, the gloomy look on his face lessened a bit, and he looked at Brother Dayang, who had also returned to human form, and said, Sheep Saint, what do you think? Among the 12 demon saints, the sheep demon saint is quick thinking. Although Long Wu is much higher in realm and strength, he will listen to his opinions at this time. It seems that he can't escape. The key is just like what the rabbit demon saint said. The previous movements attracted a lot of people's attention. Brother Dayang touched his beard, but his hands couldn't help but tremble. Let me take a look. At this time, the immortal emperor stood up and said, People's hearts are unpredictable. Those people outside may still be watching. No matter whether we can kill this so-called evil cultivator, we can't change the result of their coming to see. So, let me do the math. Everyone narrowed their eyes. They don't know the origin of the immortal emperor, they only know that he is Xiaoji's ancestor. But the problem is, Xiaoji's strength is not very good. Can this ancestor's strength be enough? After the immortal emperor finished speaking, he forcibly took out the tortoise shell and a few copper coins regardless of what they thought. His expression was extremely solemn. There is no pseudo-immortal power in his body, and forcing fortune-telling will somewhat deplete his strength. Unless the pseudo-immortal power can be replenished quickly, the damage will become permanent and may even affect the cultivation after ascending to the immortal world. But now, powerful enemies are everywhere, and only by taking the initiative as much as possible can we deal with it. He looked at the water incarnation who was still sitting still, took a deep breath, and threw a few copper coins into the turtle shell with his own hands. There was a shaking, and a faint golden light appeared on the forehead. When he poured out the copper coins, a blood arrow spurted out from his mouth. Laoji. The chicken demon emperor couldn't help but exclaimed. It doesn't matter, the immortal emperor wiped the corner of his mouth, then looked at the location of the copper coins, with a look of joy on his face, 1 stick of incense at most. Suddenly, everyone was happy. A stick of incense, that's quick. At this time, Hu Chang and Ji Tianqing rushed back. They haven't finished collecting the elixir, and even Ji Tianqing has only absorbed 100,000th of the pseudo-immortal power. But the movement here forced them to come back and take a look. And this scene made them extremely frightened. What's going on? Ji Tianqing asked in shock, while Hu Chang quickly grabbed a few elixirs and handed them to the immortal emperor. Fellow Taoist Laoji, take a mixed spirit grass first. This can replenish the blood essence. This elixir is of no use to me, the immortal emperor smiled and refused. Naturally, he knew the extent of his own injuries. Elixirs and the like have no effect on him. This. Hu Chang was stunned for a moment, then heard the immortal emperor say again, Let's take a look at those children before talking. At his age, whether he calls Mengwei a son Kinyang or a big dog a kid, there seems to be no problem. Seeing that Hu Chang seemed to be still in a daze, the immortal emperor's tone became more urgent. We will set off after one stick of incense. If we go with injuries, no one knows what will happen. Only then did Hu Chang realize that he was not very good at refining elixirs, and even if he knew how to do it, it would be too late now. Fortunately, he knows medicine. He stuffed each of the elixirs directly into the three people's mouths and prescribed the right medicine, and their injuries stabilized slightly. Also at this time, the water incarnation stood up abruptly, his eyes gleaming, and said, "Xianxia, I understand. Let's go, go quickly." He has always been unmoved, but that doesn't mean he is unclear about what just happened. What should I do with this blood ball? The old pig can still feel the struggle of the blood cells. If he gets up, the blood cells will definitely escape. Old pig, I'll take action, the rest of you go first. Longwu stood up. This is where he is at the highest level. If he doesn't take action, who will? No one was pretentious, and the water incarnation immediately said, "Jump to that position." He made a mark in the natural formation from afar, and everyone flew over one after another, leaving only the dragon, 5 pig demon emperors and the water incarnation. When Lao Tzu gets up, Longwu, you strike with all your strength. Then, Lao Tzu takes Longwu and flies with me. As soon as these words came out, Longwu's face tightened. Let the old pig fly with him. This makes him leave no stone unturned. Understood. Longwu transformed into his true body, condensing all the dragon power in his body into one claw. Longwu, do it. The old pig suddenly retracted its limbs and jumped up from the ground. Longwu also roared, and the sky shook. Hold head high. Like a real dragon roaring, the dragon breathes out from its 5 mouths, and extremely pure real dragon power surges over its claws. This grab directly caught the blood bead that was trying to escape. Die! The roar sounded like it was about to tear apart mountains and rocks, and Kunlun was shaken again. The blood ball was crushed to pieces, revealing its human form. Walk! Longwu tried his best, but now there was no more energy left. The water incarnation gave the order and flew into the air. The old pig quickly picked up Longwu's tail and followed the water incarnation closely towards the mark in the natural formation. Go, go quickly. Before the water incarnation hit the ground, the rabbit demon king screamed in shock. Looking back, the exploding blood light had already covered the entire Jiden Peak. Moreover, Jiden Peak seems to be an iceberg, slowly melting. Come with me. The water incarnation flashed and walked at the front. Using mysterious footwork, he quickly led everyone and disappeared into the formation. They broke into Kunlun's formation, and no one was sure whether they would reach the Dongsheng realm in the East Mortal realm. Almost there. In Dazhu world, Zuyun patted Xiaohuo under the seat and signaled him to slow down. He already felt a familiar breath. Pseudo-fairy power. At the same time, he began to slowly become nervous in his heart. Behind him, a group of snake demons also stopped one after another. Zuyun raised his head and looked towards the sky. The strange thing is that it's still dark here. Did I guess wrong? The most special thing about Qingping Fairy Kingdom is the Qingping floating in the sky and the hot sun fire. Unexpectedly, it was dark here. But in Qingping Fairyland, there is no night. This made him doubt his suspicions. Master, at this time, a snake demon behind him transformed into a human form and walked to Zuyun. After bowing slightly, he said, "Ahead, it seems that there is Qingping Fairyland." Zuyun frowned and said, "How do you recognize him?" "Master, we were born and raised in the Qingping Fairy Kingdom, and we, the Snake Demon clan, do not see with our eyes, but through a spiritual sense." The snake girl knew what Zhu Yun's suspicion was, so she explained directly. If it is really the Qingping Immortal Kingdom, then why is there neither Yang Huo nor Qingping? The snake demon thought for a moment and said, Master, according to the memories we inherited, it is not that there is no night in Qingping Fairy Kingdom, and when the night falls, those Qingpings will also disappear. So we can only say that we are here, it's dark night in Qingping Fairy Kingdom? Impossible, Zhu Yun shook his head and said, before coming here, I spent a lot of time in Qingping Fairy Kingdom, but I never saw the night. From the collapse of the Ascension Secret Realm to the time he woke up. Even if the sun fire has fallen, it is still bright in the fairy land. Master, if it is the Qingping Immortal Kingdom, we will know in the past. If not, we can take a look at the realm. If it is, this is a great good thing for the master. Good thing? Zhu Yun's pupils shrank. What do you mean by this? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1379. Master, the female cultivator transformed into a snake demon said softly, this world belongs to you. In other words, if the Qingping fairy land is integrated into it, then it is completely under your control. In the fairy land, except for us, in addition to these snake monsters, there are many other 11 tribes of monsters who have been contaminated by evil spirits and have lost their minds. You have the ancestral beast monument. If you can save them, wouldn't it? At this point, the snake demon closed his mouth, but it already made Zhu Yun extremely excited. Earlier, he remembered the destiny power of the 12 demon clans, but he had never placed the 12 clans in the universe world at the same time. Now, hearing what the snake demon said, it seems possible. There are many kinds of forces circulating in the universe world today. The spiritual power of the 5 elements, the power of chaos, the power of pseudo-immortality, the power of faith, the power of stars, the power of origin. Zhu Yun even guessed that there must be more than just these types. If we add the power of destiny, can we bring some changes to the universe? The most important thing is that the number of immortals in Qingping Immortal Kingdom is huge. If they all become the people here, then, it can also provide the original power to the universe world to a certain extent. But, when parting with Ancestral Tree mentioned that his original power could not cover this. This shows that even if Qingping Immortal Kingdom is really here, it has not been completely integrated into the great universe world. He thought deeply and guessed the key. Qingping Immortal Kingdom was originally a fragment of a heaven-level world star. Even if the way of heaven is incomplete, it cannot be integrated into his world with incomplete rules. Unless, I can control Qingping Immortal Kingdom. But right now, he had no idea. Perhaps only by finding the Immortal Emperor. Thinking of this, Zhu Yun decided not to move forward for the time being. The Immortal King rebelled, and he was temporarily unable to deal with it. Even if it passed, he would just die. Anyway, in the great universe world, even if those immortal kings find a way to leave, at most they will end up in the great universe world, and it is absolutely impossible to go to the spirit world. This matter has become less urgent. You guys go back along the way you came, and I'll go out and take a look. Zhu Yun plans to leave directly from the world of Dazhu. At that time, in the Immortal Kingdom, he could not come to the Great Universe world because Qingping Immortal Kingdom was already in the Great Universe world. And now that he chooses to leave the universe, he will definitely appear in the spirit world. Is the master going to leave this world? Xiaohuo heard what he meant and asked nervously. What, you want to go out with me? Zhu Yun saw what he was thinking and asked with a smile. There was an accident last time, so he didn't bring Xiaohuo with him. This may have become an obsession in his heart. Xiao Huo sneered and said, "Master, it's okay to stay here. You'd better let me go out and fight with you." Zuyun was dumbfounded, then smiled, and said, "Okay, then I will take you out directly after that." He looked at the snake demon again and said, "You guys should go back first, practice well, and come back here again, maybe you will use you." "Yes, master." The snake demon obeyed, and after Zuyun disappeared in front of him with a small fire, he looked in front of him meaningfully, and then turned around and left. And in the fairyland, the place where the immortal river is broken, a colorful brilliance soared into the sky. This is Zuyun's Diwu glazed mirror. Because Zuyun left the mirror behind and he chose to return directly to the spirit world, Diwu glazed mirror would naturally follow him back. The huge beam of light not only stirred up the river water, but also aroused the pseudo-immortal power between heaven and earth. The immortal kings who were heading downstream came one after another. I happened to see the scene where the light beam disappeared. That person must be hiding in the Duanxian river. An immortal king said in a deep voice. "But we can't get down to the Duanxian river. Why don't you stay here?" All the immortal kings squinted their eyes, thinking about countermeasures. Unexpectedly, I really returned to the spirit world. It can be seen that Qingping Immortal Kingdom has been integrated into the great universe world. Looking at the familiar scene in front of him, Zuyun felt like he was suddenly lost. At this moment, he was at the junction of Tianweishan and Kunlun. All he could think about was that something happened in the Ascension secret realm that caused this result. Both Xianxia secret realm and Qingping Fairy Kingdom belong to Qingping Star, and there was some connection before. At that time, he took out a fragment and trapped Xianxia inside, but something changed later. Maybe that's what leads to this. A blessing in disguise, right? Zuyun shook his head and threw these distracting thoughts out of his mind. He paid attention to the scene in front of him and frowned instantly. Jidan Peak is gone? And the bloodlight reveals all kinds of evil spirits. Could it have alerted the evil cultivators? It doesn't matter if you don't look at it. If you take a closer look, you will find that there are many monks rushing towards Jidan sect. Jidan Peak is gone, but there are still many peaks belonging to Jidan sect. What shocked him even more was that there were not only evil cultivators, but also many demonic cultivators. The aura revealed by every monk is definitely not something he can compete with now. That is to say, he is only in the stage of becoming a god, so those powerful monks will not care about him. Otherwise, Zuyun might have died the moment he appeared. "Damn it, please leave first as a sign of respect." Zuyun didn't look back, and ran toward Tianyi with Xiao Huo. It is estimated that the collapse of the Ascension secret realm also affected the heavenly world, so all these old immortals collapsed out. And all the people from the Jidan sect who entered the Ascension secret realm died, so these people wanted to come and take advantage of the fire. A few days later, Zuyun left the heavenly world and noticed the Five Elements sect. "Since I'm here, I might as well go and take a look. Anyway, there is no one in the Five Elements sect who can threaten me. First, to see how Tutu is, and second, to see if there is a chance to steal the immortal artifact of the Danlu furnace." Zuyun touched Xiaohuo, and a man and a beast fell at the same time. Zuyun rode Xiaohuo and flew directly to the back mountain. There was no one in the back mountain. He knew that the back mountain was a forbidden area, and he also knew that there were no powerful monks stationed in the back mountain. But he didn't know that Tutu was taken away by his water incarnation and went to the spirit world. Landing on the platform on the top of the mountain, Zuyun was preparing to hide in the cave. But suddenly, a strong spiritual vibration came from the cave where the Five Elements Wanderer was. 5-colored light circulated. Someone broke into the Five Elements soul trapping array, and then the Five Elements Wanderer was going to explode the array. Zuyun was immediately delighted. If both sides were injured, he would have a chance to get the immortal pill furnace. Yasuanhua wanted to break through the realm through the alchemy recently, and he was in need of a pill furnace. With the immortal pill furnace, he could also refine pseudo-immortal pills for Jogun. Thinking of this, Zuyun drew a heavenly talisman, hid his figure, and walked over quietly. He did not enter the array. First, he was afraid that he would be discovered by the Five Elements Wanderer and the people in the array. Second, he was afraid that the Five Elements Wanderer would explode the array and hurt him. He even dared not use the Breaking Void Spirit Eyes technique, let alone the Divine Eyes technique. However, the array was affected, and sounds came out from it from time to time. A crisp female voice made Zuyun look strange. "Old man, you are just a remnant soul, and I still have the Immortal Eye technique in my hand. You can't do anything to me. Let's get to the point of reality. Enter this soul transferring grass. I can still give you a chance to live." It's Nujiao. He actually has the soul transferring grass. Did she pick it from the Ascension secret realm and then bring it out? But why is she in the Five Elements sect and sneaking into the back mountain? Just when Zuyun was extremely surprised, he heard the cold voice of the Five Elements Wanderer, which, "Don't think I don't know what you want. If I enter this soul transferring grass, I can't do anything to you. This deal, I won't agree." Zuyun thought about it for a while, and then he realized that Nujiao must be better than himself in the attainment of the Divine Eye technique, so she saw the weakness of the Five Elements Wanderer's remnant soul and threatened him. The deal between him and him was to put down the soul transferring grass, and then he could get the alchemy furnace and leave. With the protection of the Five Elements soul trapping formation, he could fight to the death with Zuyunyu. But it seemed that the remnant soul had no way to deal with Nujiao, so he didn't want to trade with Nujiao. Zuyun figured out the key and was no longer in a hurry. Although he didn't get the soul transfer grass from the Ascension secret realm. But it's not difficult to find one. Just thinking about it, Nujiao's voice came again. "Old man, you have no choice. I just borrowed the alchemy furnace for a while, and I can give you the soul transfer grass. When I leave here, you can choose to transfer your soul. There is no loss, so why not?" Zuyun was shocked. Nujiao actually came for the alchemy furnace too? She knows what she is talking about. But can she make pills? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzwan Xianxia. Chapter 1380. Zuyun did not move, but stood quietly outside, listening to the verbal game between Nujiao and the remaining souls of Five Elements Sanren. The only thing that remnant soul can rely on is the self-destruction formation, and it uses the formation to blow up everything. As for Nujiao, she only has one moving grass, and she can see through the Five Elements trap spirit array. But it is still a bit difficult to break the formation. As a result, a stalemate has formed here. Unless someone can break it? After another moment, Zuyun suddenly felt a wave of spiritual energy not far away. He looked up and saw a dark head sticking out of the cave. Little Hizi. Zuyun frowned, wondering why Xiao Hizi appeared here. The child he had rescued from several outer sect deacons and the alchemist of the Jiden sect had always been taciturn. Wait a minute, the aura on his body seems to have reached the foundation. Suddenly, Zuyun's heart skipped a beat, and he secretly felt something was wrong. He didn't know what Xiao Hizi's talent was. But since he was selected to refine the 5 spiritual pills before, it shows that this kid's talent is not too strong. But at this time, he revealed the aura of the foundation establishment stage, which shows that he is not in a normal place of cultivation. After thinking for a moment, he remembered that when he was teaching to Duduo his cultivation experience, Xiao Hizi had also been in the alchemy room in that valley and had not left. This guy is a little scheming. Zuyun narrowed his eyes when he thought of this, and Xiao Hizi also retracted his head at this moment. Thinking that Nujiao and the remaining souls of Wuxing Sanren would not be able to tell the winner for a while, Zuyun decided to follow Xiaohizi into the cave to take a look. Quietly stepping on the secret of immortality, Zuyun didn't use any spiritual power. With his level and the magical effect of the immortality secret, Zuyun would naturally not be discovered by Xiaohizi. After chasing behind him, Xiaohizi seemed to sense something. Looking back, it was impossible to find where Zuyun was. Strange, could it be that the witch is back? Probably not, right? Xiaohizi was obviously inexperienced and muttered to himself, which made Zuyun listen. It seems that the witch he talks about is Nujiao, so, it was Xiaohizi who made the elixir? Did Nujiao force him to make the elixir? Zuyun remembered that he had left some introductory books for Tu Duduo, and the alchemist also had some experience in alchemy. Since this little black guy has a scheming mind, it is naturally possible for him to learn how to make alchemy. Besides, the bottom of this cave can lead directly to the valley, and is also connected to the fire veins. Zuyun secretly had a suspicion in his heart. He followed Xiaohizi all the way to the fire vein. When he saw some bottles and cans beside the fire vein and a slightly damaged pill furnace, Zuyun knew that he had confirmed his suspicion. Nujiao's aura is not very strong. She was obviously damaged when she forcibly left the ascending immortal secret realm, so her level declined and she needs some elixirs to make up for it. And she doesn't know how to make elixirs, so she happened to meet Xiaohizi, hiding here. Huishan does have some ideas. Zuyun decided to stay and see what Xiaohizi would do. The remaining souls of 5 elements Sanren cannot leave. If Nujiao wins, she will definitely come here after getting the alchemy furnace. On the contrary, you can find opportunities to steal it temporarily. As for dealing with Nujiao, Zuyun has no such idea for the time being. I don't know where Tu Duduo went. Muttering to himself, Zuyun walked aside, sat down next to the mountain wall, and watched Xiaohizi activate the fire veins to refine the elixir again. It can be seen that what Xiaohizi refined are all mid-level elixirs, used for the foundation building period. Moreover, the techniques he used were very different from his own, and there was no doubt that he had learned them secretly. Xiaohizi vs Nujiao, maybe there will be a good show to watch. Then just wait. Through the elixir refined by Xiaohizi, it is not difficult to guess that Nujiao is also in the foundation building stage. Then let's see who is more powerful. Surprisingly, the Kunlun Mountains are really the cliffs of the sky. Looking at the familiar scene in front of him, Longwu was also extremely shocked. He opened his mouth and murmured. In addition, what makes them more certain is that their strength is gradually weakened, and Xianxia suppresses the demon saints. Except for the demon saints of the 12 tribes, the others looked at this place curiously. Only the immortal emperor looked solemn. Water Transformation was keenly aware of this, but since the immortal emperor didn't say anything, he wouldn't take the initiative to mention it. Apart from that, a person is least affected by excess paint. He himself is only in the elixir formation stage and is very interested in the mortal world. Along the way, they were able to hear that the master came from this mortal world. The master is even younger than him. But whether it is the spiritual world or the mortal world, those who have achieved mastery are regarded as teachers, and they are ranked according to their realm, not their age. When he thought of this, Tu Duduo respected Zuyun even more. Both have 5 spiritual roots, and it took him more than 100 years to reach the elixir stage. But Master has only been in the stage of becoming a god for only a few decades. You have finally returned to your hometown, Shuawawa teased with a smile. I wonder what you will think when you see your original tribesmen. The other demon saints couldn't help but smile. It was really good to have escaped from death and be able to return to the mortal world for a look. Longwu smiled bitterly and said, Zuyun, our demon dragon clan has no clan members left. Zuyun suddenly realized that the last time in the Dragon Valley, all the demon dragons died in the hands of the demon dragon emperor. That is to say, Longwu was lucky. Not only did he escape from death, but he also got the 7 dragon balls that the dragon demon emperor had refined. This allowed his strength to firmly rank first among the 12 demon saints. The immortal emperor seemed to have some insights and said, Qingping Immortal Kingdom also has the demonic dragon clan. In fact, the demonic dragon clan has the largest number among all the demonic beasts. The words that came out of the blue made Xianxia suddenly startled, and he couldn't help but look over. He knows about the monsters in Qingping Fairy Kingdom. But those monsters were said to have been attacked by demonic energy and lost their minds. This should also include the fact that they cannot reproduce, right? Why is it the most? Seeing the confused look in the eyes of the water incarnation, the immortal emperor smiled and explained, the demon dragon clan has true dragon blood. Although they are also affected by the demonic energy, they are still awake most of the time. Under this condition, they hide. We can't find them in the remote areas of the fairy kingdom. The same is true. They recuperate and use all their strength to build a dragon demon valley for future generations of demon dragons. They are protected by formations, so the descendants are all awake. So that's it. Xianxia's eyes lit up and he couldn't help but said happily, then do you know, where is the demonic dragon valley? The immortal emperor simply shook his head and said, I don't know, but once, when the Lord of Dian City was cultivating the space immortal roots, he suddenly entered that place by mistake. It happened that the demon dragons were awake, so he was not harmed. And finally left safely. However, the demonic dragon clan was afraid that there were evil-minded people in the immortal kingdom, so they knocked out Dian City Lord and sent him out. However, they did not shy away from Dian City Lord's questions later. City Lord, inform me of this matter through immortal King Dian. Disappointment suddenly flashed in Xianxia's eyes. However, when we get to Qingping Immortal Kingdom, we can naturally search for it, but it's not a big deal. No matter how big Qingping Immortal Kingdom is, can it be bigger than the spiritual world? In contrast, Longwu was much more excited. What Lao Ji means is that there is still our demon dragon clan in Qingping Fairy Kingdom. The 12 demon clan likes to live in groups. How could Longwu not be excited when he heard that there were still other tribesmen? Yes, and I have already said that the number is far more than the other monsters in the fairy kingdom. Longwu's eyes shone brightly, then it looks like we need to take a closer look at the demonic dragon valley. The water incarnation smiled and said, as long as you can enter the Qingping fairy kingdom, I can naturally let you go find it. At the same time, he also thought of the snake demon clan that was put away by the main body. If the main body can be found and the totem pole comes out, this will not be a big deal at all, right? Finally, they trudged across Tianzi Cliff and appeared in Dongsheng realm. Feeling that the spiritual power suddenly became thinner, the demon saints felt a little uncomfortable for a while. It seems that you all want to go back to the clan to have a look. How about I give you some time and let's meet at the 7-star gate at this time tomorrow? Water Avatar said with a smile. This couldn't be better. All the demon saints were overjoyed and left one after another. Some demon saints can also accompany them along the way. Even Longwu, after struggling for a long time, decided to take a look at the ancestral land of the dragon clan. In the end, only a group of humans were left here, plus the immortal emperor and Ji Tianqing. Let's go, we need some rest too. After looking at the big dog who was still injured, he realized that this was one of Zhu Yun's reasons for going to the 7-star gate. Go find some elixirs. However, Hu Chong had other plans and said, Zhu Yun, I want to go back to Yaoang Valley and take a look at Yasha Realm to find some old friends. The Medicine King Valley in the mortal world has long been moved to the Yasha Realm. Since Hu Chong wants to see it, it means that he does not want to go to the Qingping Immortal Kingdom with Shui Zhen for the time being. That's fine, Water Avatar pondered for a moment and said, if Valley Master Hu returns to the spirit world, he will go to the Medicine King Valley in the spirit world. When I am free, will I look for you again? Then, See you later. See you later.